about the Messi thing?
Anything else on the Messi front, Chris, before we move on?
No, I'm done. I'm
falling out. I told you, I never want to bring this guy's name up again.
I don't know, man. This Messi thing is just a freaking mess. What a disaster.
I don't want to hear this name ever again until it's official. But they got me back.
No question about it. I am ready to get hurt again.
Chris, the Herons are back. Welcome, everybody, to episode number 92 of the Battered Herons podcast. I am your host, Daniel Granada, and alongside me, as always, is Mr. KBD. How are you doing, sir?
I mean, this has been a great week. Hurricanes are coming, and they're not hitting South Florida. Why? Because of Messi effect. That's exactly why we haven't.
Everything that happens now here in South Florida is basically, and it's not even an exaggeration. If you're watching from another part of the world or even the country, everything here is somehow linked to Messi. It's the Messi effect. So much so that we have finally broken ground on our new stadium, officially announced today, and everybody said it's the Messi effect. Otherwise, who knows when they would have broken ground. So the Messi effect in full effect. And we broke ground, Chris. How are we feeling?
Well, I mean, I saw the grass is still kind of high when I passed the stadium. So I don't know if they've broken ground in terms of, I mean, they still got to cut the damn grass over there. But, hey, if they're breaking ground, then let's get to it. The faster, the better.
I mean, I'm sorry. Somebody's spamming the comment section.
Yeah, Ryan, one time is good enough, buddy. We'll answer. I promise.
They're saying 2025. I feel like that's very optimistic for what I've seen that they want to do. And I think we had this conversation an episode or two ago where I said, if you can't do it right, don't rush it. Take your time, because this stadium should be with us for a very long time from here on out. So please take your time. I want it to be done by 2025. I want Messi to play in that stadium. But if it can't be done timeline-wise, don't rush it, please, because I need this to be done well the first time.
Well, hopefully it's going to be done right. It's not like the Lego cookie cutter seats that we have at the corners of the stadium.
Those haven't fallen down yet.
Well, they haven't fallen down yet, but yeah, you never know. Those things were put up like in 15 minutes. So,
all right. So we do have two guests. And real quick, before we bring on our first guest, I did want to touch on one thing real quick. I don't know if you saw, I think you saw, right? That they moved officially that Charlotte game from August 20th. They moved it to October 18th. So we will now play on October 18th against Charlotte at home, and then just 3 days later end the season against Charlotte away on October 21st. Now, a couple things that come to mind with this. First, I think it's kind of weird to play the same team within 3 days. And second, I was hoping that we would get the same treatment that Orlando got last year. Last year, Orlando played us 3 days before their final for the U.S. Open Cup. And they postponed that game because they wanted to give Orlando ample time to prepare for that Open Cup final. But when I look at this schedule, I don't see where exactly they could move that Orlando game that we have right before the Open Cup. So I don't think we're going to get that same treatment. I think we're just going to have to tough it up and play Orlando on Sunday and then just get ready for the U.S. Open Cup just 3 days later.
Well, I was looking at the schedule. I was going over the schedule with my wife at the end of September. I mean, holy hell, it's going to be it's a slobber knocker. The end of the month schedule for September, I mean, every 2-3 days there's going to be a game. I think there's going to be like 6 games just 3 days apart each, and then we get like another game 7 days later. I mean, it's going to be amazing for the viewers, but I got to imagine that Messi and Busquets are going to go through the same deal that they did when they were going through the Leagues Cup. They're going to get gassed.
Yeah, and we're not going to get into that today, but definitely it definitely takes a toll on our playoff chances, right? Because it's going to be a lot of rotating. Definitely. And then I'm going to talk about that Kansas City game in another episode, but I do want to talk about that because that game is going to be fun. Nobody's going to expect us to win, so it's going to be fun. But anyway, without further ado, returning for the third time, our Nashville, I don't want to say insider, our Nashville friend, and the last time we talked to him was right before the Leagues Cup final. He was at the game. Apparently, he was in the same section as I was. I didn't get to actually run into him, but he's back to talk about Nashville because we play them again. And welcome everybody, Mr. Uncle Mad. How you doing, sir?
Doing good. Glad to be back. Always a fun time jumping in with you guys.
So real quick, I did want to bring something up. You were sitting in section 120, much like I was, and I didn't see you. I mean, I wasn't gonna go and be rude and look for you, so I didn't see you. And Chris, oh, it's not coming up. And Chris pointed out that one of the pictures I posted, he spotted you. Now I have to go find this
Yes.
picture and pull it up, and I'm gonna look for it now. But apparently, you and I were right by each other, apparently, and I didn't even see you. So,
Yeah, that was a game where apparently, like, I mean, there was a who's who there, and like it. I had like I've told like I had a million people that told me like in my video from the game that they were like, hey, the big time streamer Castro's in the background of your video at like 2:31. I'm like, well, I don't know who Castro is, but then I looked him up and I was like, holy crap! I was like, that dude's huge. I was like, like I looked up on his Instagram, I saw a picture of him, I was like, oh yeah, that's him. He was just wandering around behind me at one point in time when I'm just babbling on about whatever I was talking about the game. But I was like, it was quite the gathering of celebrities at that game.
yeah.
Well, and
so
how was
I wanted
and
to go ahead.
No, I was going to ask you. You both went to the game. I spoke to you a little bit about it, Danny, and I want to get your perspective, Matt. I want to see how it was. How was the experience that day? Because I imagine that experience had to be very different than what you're commonly used to at the home games over there.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was awesome. There was like a lot of question marks kind of going into it because the ticket prices were so crazy. Like, what was the fan turnout going to be? Was it going to be a bunch of, kind of neutrals that were there to see Messi? Was did the Nashville fans get priced out? And yeah, I don't know exactly what happened, but our supporter section was as packed as it's been all season. I think it was a pretty pro Nashville crowd. People were in their seats.
Nashville,
People
they
were in the seats as early as I've ever seen people in seats. Like the stadium was packed like an hour before kickoff. Like we got there pretty early just to make sure there was like, no issues with traffic and stuff getting in. But I mean, stadium was full from like 2 hours out. I mean, everybody was rocking, chanting. The one thing I thought worked in our favor though is like the Messi chant kind of goes along with like NSC. So when you'd start to hear Messi, NSC. It's an easy one to kind of like mix in and blend and kind of try to drown out a little bit. So that kind of helped us a little bit in that regard. Whereas like,
it's funny because I took it the other way because you guys outnumbered because Nashville showed up. That had to have been 70, 75 to 25%. But every time you guys started the NSC, I swear that it sounded like it was Messi chants all over the stadium. I guess it's selective hearing, right? I heard Messi, you heard NSC, but that's definitely what I heard. And here's the picture. Now, obviously, I don't know if you could see that, but right there to the right of that Messi poster is Uncle Mad right there.
That's me.
And,
that is me.
And I was like, oh, look at that. You were right next to me. I hadn't even realized.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, because that stadium is like, we've got a good setup where you can kind of, you're never too far away from the field. You're never too far away from the people around you. I think that's what makes the kind of sound, resonate, is that like everything is kind of right on top of the field. So it's always, when the crowd's loud, it just kind of burst out and kind of stays right on top of it.
How did you feel about the League Cup in general?
The stadium's beautiful.
The final. How did you feel about the final?
I mean, I thought we played as good of a game as we possibly could have. Certainly there's a few chances we would have liked to have back. I'm sure the Campana chance right at the end is another one that Miami would have liked to have back. But I mean, I thought we played as well as we possibly could have. I thought like, a lot of what we talked about before the game kind of played out, where we tried to limit the service to Messi rather than just like put clamps on him and keep him from doing stuff. But I mean, he showed on the goal, like you give him 1 second, you give him one touch on the ball, and he can just do something incredible. So it was almost one of those things where you knew he was probably going to have his moment. So you just had to do enough in the moments we had. And I think ultimately we probably didn't, because, we had 2 or 3 decent chances where we could have maybe gotten something more out of it, but give him that moment. And you go all the way to penalties where it comes all the way down to the 2 keepers shooting against each other. I mean, I don't know that you can ask for much more. You want to win. I mean, especially your home stadium, you want to lift a cup, you want to win. But I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I don't think anybody here was like putting any judgment on the team, any judgment on the coaches, any judgment on the players. It was like, well, I mean, some people kind of got a little butthurt about Dax's little post, game picture he posted.
Ooh, yes.
But,
and I wanted to ask you about that.
What did
you think of that?
I had no problem with it, man, because I mean, like, I think if you know Dax, if you follow Dax, he's like a hardcore, desperate to win every game. He wasn't like, posting that, like, if anything, he was posting that as like at least I can get a joke out
Like
of this. And make me
like a
feel little bit
respect.
better. Yeah, like
Yeah.
he's got a podcast. It's called like the Journeyman, something like that, where it's like him and two other guys that have bounced around MLS for their whole careers. And it's a really good listen if you want to like listen to it, where he kind of breaks down that situation. He breaks down the game. Like he really does a good job explaining like what the game plan was against Miami, where he thought it worked, where he thought they were like some letdowns. But he basically explains the whole like process of like getting the jersey, which was just interesting to listen to, because like he said, there was actually like a little bit of discussion in the locker room, like between the players, like, are any of us going to be the one to go ask him for the jersey? Who's it going to be? And he said like everybody kind of pretty much defaulted to him and Hani. They were the two that kind of everybody was like, well, if it's going to be anybody, it's going to be one of you two. And he could tell it, but it's a way better story. Like go listen to his podcast, because he tells a really great story about how it all played out and like how it ended up coming to be. But he also explains like, how much it hurt him to lose that final. He said he's been in 4 finals in his lifetime. He's lost 3, only won 1. None in MLS. His only win was he won a Gold Cup when he was playing for the U.S. men's national team. But that, like, he's at the point in his career where he's kind of looking at, what is he leaving behind for his kids? What is he leaving behind for his family? And like to get that jersey from that game, to have something, your kids can point to like 20 years from now and be like, oh yeah, my dad played against Lionel Messi. And just who cares, at that point in time that we lost the game, his kids can be like, yeah, this is from when my dad played against Lionel Messi. So, I mean, he had a really good explanation for it. I had no judgment on it, because I mean, it's like, you can see in his face, even in the picture, like he's not like happy. He's just like, I mean, this is the best that could have come of it. But like some of the fans that were like, oh, could you be so like this after you lost a game? It's like, you don't know Dax if you thought there was anything other than like misery in that picture.
What do you think it's worse? I don't think what Dax did was bad either. But what do you think is? I guess let me not even say what's worse, because I don't think what Dax did was bad at all. But what do you think about what Brandon Vasquez did after Inter Miami beat Cincinnati, when he went and he asked for an autograph? That I thought was kind of weird.
That's a little different, because I mean, like jersey swapping, has been a part of soccer forever.
Regular.
I remember like it used to be the biggest like thing about the World Cup was every game. I went to a camp one year where they like told us, bring shirts and stuff you don't care about, because you're going to play scrimmages throughout the week. And after every scrimmage, you're going to do swaps with the other team, just like to kind of like emulate what we saw like the famous players do. So it's like, I guess the Messi of it all kind of like makes it a little more elevated than just like, is Randall Leal going to swap jerseys with Robert Taylor or something like that. That Messi of it kind of elevates everything.
Yeah,
but I mean,
of course,
the autograph part's a little weird. Like that would be more something I could see players doing like down the line, like 3 or 4 years later, you happen to run into Messi somewhere and be like, hey man, we swapped jerseys one time. Would you mind signing it for me or something like that? But like on the field after the game, asking for an autograph, that's a little weird to me. That's a little weird. But I mean, the jersey swap is part of soccer. That's been going on forever. Like football started to take it now. Like baseball, like you see random dudes. Like there was like a famous like meme a couple years ago where 2 guys partied all night in Vegas and then swapped shirts at the end of the night. That's like
I saw that.
It's part of the culture. It's like it's kind of normal to me. I think on the Dax thing, it was people were more like, you should have been more upset, or you should have been more mad that you lost or something like that. Like you don't know Dax if you thought he wasn't upset after that match.
Well, I think it was elevated both in terms of the attention that it got, obviously so much negative attention towards it. But I mean, it's elevated also in terms of the kind of swapping jerseys that he's doing with Messi. Like this is, like you said, it's something that he's going to be carrying with him for the rest of his life, getting a jersey, whether autographed or not. I mean, if you're going to be able to see Messi and get the jersey swapped, I mean, you're going to take advantage of getting the autograph the same day, right? I mean, what's the chances you're going to see Messi again?
Well, I mean, especially because it was a cup final, that made it more understandable to me. And like,
yeah,
I mean, I think we all hope he's here in the league for a few years. So technically everybody should, be thinking they're going to get to have a few goes at the bites at the apple with the Messi's, deal. But I don't know, the autograph, I wouldn't judge him just because like it is Messi. Like, like you said,
yeah, man.
Brandon Vasquez, 2 years ago was a journeyman in the MLS, and now, he's been great for the last 2 years, but it's not like he's like, anybody that's had any status until recently. So I can see where he's, I just now got to this level. I'm just now getting to the point where I'm playing in these type of games. I got to take my moment when I get it.
Of course.
So I did have a question for you. You did what, I mean, a lot of people have been doing recently since Messi came around. They've been vlogging. And as soon as you put Messi's name on there or Inter Miami and you vlog, those things blow up.
Yeah.
And I know that you had a great vlog. I enjoyed it. And how was that? Because I think you got to feel the Messi effect with your vlog.
The Messi burn.
Yeah, it was crazy because I've had a few videos that have, popped off and done pretty well over the years, but like nothing that quickly. That was what was like, and the total number that it's gotten to is blown anything else out of the water I've ever done, but just how quickly it was blowing up. Like I was literally like, I think me and my wife were like out to lunch the next day, and like I was showing it to her. I was like, wow, look, this video's already got like, some 1,000 odd views. And then I was like, well, wait a minute. Now it's got like 2,000 views. Well, no, wait a minute. Now it's got like 2,500 views. It was just like every time I'd like try to look at something, it was like, there was another 1,000 views on it. And I usually try to keep up with the comment section, like, comment back. If people have the time to comment on my videos, I'll try to give them a comment back as long as, they're nice about it. But like this one, I was like flying. Like I was like, I'm gonna need to set a day. I'm gonna take a PTO day from work just to be able to catch up on all the comments I got to like respond back to on this. It was crazy. But I mean, and there was, people in the chat who were like, this is the Messi effect. There are people who were like telling me this is what happens. You put Messi in your video. So I've kind of like jokingly in my more recent videos put in like a disclaimer in like the description, like Lionel Messi does not appear in this video. Cause I know like I picked up like 200 plus subscribers just off of that video alone. I'm like, okay, I'm happy to have y'all here, but I want to be very clear. Like, I don't always vlog about Lionel Messi. It was just a, very happy circumstance that he came to Nashville, and I always do, vlogs when the Nashville games happen. Yeah. So it's like, I hope you all stick around, but this isn't going to be like an all Messi all the time channel, just so you know.
Yeah, that Messi effect is real for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But the good thing, Danny, is, and Matt, you do a really incredible job with those vlogs during the game. I mean, the kind of views and the kind of insight that you were giving, not just as a fan of soccer, but then as a fan of the opposing team, it's something that a lot of the fans that are running into your channel are seeing. Hey, he's got pretty good views, he's got pretty good opinions, you got really good footage of the game. So I mean, they must have loved it. I saw you were climbing, so congrats to you on that for sure.
Appreciate it. Thanks. Yeah, there was it was mostly positive. There was like some like weirdness from some people. Like it was a very small like percentage where there was like, because at one point in the video, like, Messi had come out, like, the play had shifted where he was like right in front of us for a second, and then he's like slowly walking back to the other side of the pitch where he usually is playing, and I'm like, oh, look at Messi, he's a coward, he doesn't want to be on the same side of the field as me. Like obviously sarcastic.
Goodness.
Obviously sarcastic. Like, why me in the 8th row of the stadium would be intimidating to Messi? Like, that should be very obvious that was a joke. But I had people in the comments were like,
course.
how dare you call the GOAT a coward? And I was like, that was clearly a joke. And then there was obviously people like, because I think we were one of the first teams that kind of like treated Messi like he was an opposing player coming into our stadium, and didn't just like, roll out the red carpet and be like, thank you, thank you, Messi. Like we booed him. There was a little, Messi sucks chance when he first came out, but that was like, competitive.
It should be, yeah.
And then there was people in the chat who were like, you cannot say the GOAT sucks. You cannot boo the GOAT. He is the GOAT. I was like, okay, this is how things work. This is sports, man. I mean, what are you talking about here? I was like, he's no doubting he's the greatest player of all time, but he's on the other team on that night. So I mean, we treat him as such. So
what I appreciated the most from the Nashville fans there were that I was surrounded by Nashville fans, right? Yeah. But like when Messi scored, for example, they were clapping. They're like, this is amazing. That was great. Like, and I remember some of them look at me and they're like, I want to win, but I appreciate what I'm watching. Like, that was amazing. And I don't know if it was maybe just lucky the people around me in my section, but the Nashville people were so friendly. I really enjoyed my time there. It was really cool. So kudos to you guys, all the Nashville people out there.
Yeah, no, I think in a situation like that where it was like such a just amazing goal, like what could you like complain about? What could you deny of that goal? Like, if it had been like a weird questionable penalty or something weird like that, that'd been different. But I mean, it's like when he just like, have you guys seen, there's like it was going around social media, there was like a 2-minute clip where like somebody in the stadium just like did a full ISO on Messi. They were just like zoomed in on him in the build up to the goal, and he's just kind of hanging around. He's not moving much.
He's walking for like a minute. Yeah,
it's like a full like 2 minutes. He's just chilling. Looks like nothing's happening. And then you see like he sees something and he kind of starts jogging, and you see he kind of starts moving. All of a sudden he sprints, he's on the ball, he beats Walker Zimmerman, who got a good tackle in, but somehow the ball just sticks to Messi, rips that shot, and it's a goal. It's like, how do you defend that? Like, how do you say anything against that? Like, you just can't stop that. Like, he's just over there like standing next to Tata Martino having a conversation like, hey, where are we going after the game? And then all of a sudden next thing you know, he sprints and he scores a goal out of nowhere. It's like, you got to show respect. I mean, there's nothing, I mean, you can't stop that.
So with that, I want to switch over to Wednesday real quick. We play again. We had you on a couple times, right? So we don't want to bombard you with the same questions we always do. So just overall, what are your expectations for Wednesday? I know that you guys have lost, like 6 out of your last 7 regular season games, I think, give or take, something like that. So what are you expecting on Wednesday?
I would have expected a lot better before our game against Atlanta on Saturday, where they just thrashed us 4-0, and we looked like a team that had just played a couple extra games more than anybody else had. Whereas like you guys in your 2 games like last week just keep on rolling. Nothing. It's like there's the Fountain of Youth down there in Miami. Is just feeding them
Messi
like, yeah. It's like, but I think you could see we weren't like as cohesive a unit in the game against Atlanta as we have been throughout the tournament. I think we rested Dax in that game. That's a big part of it, which is, somewhat alarming. If like a 37-year-old center mid is the guy that links your whole team up, you probably would like it to be like a younger, more, regularly playing player doing that. But we also had Zimmerman out in that game, and you could tell his presence was missed as well. Gary basically said both of them, he had an eye on Miami when he kept them out of that game. So I would expect, very similar to the League Cup's final, we'll set up in the same kind of way. Although, Tata's a great coach. I wouldn't be surprised if he took some things away from that game and said we might do things a little differently on y'all's end in that regard. But I think it'll be a tight game again. I mean, Gary, when he knows he's got to play defense, he usually sets things up pretty well. Just hopefully we can, because the big problem for us against Atlanta was like we just could not get our front 3 involved in the game all. Like it seemed like there was like long stretches where like Mukhtar, Surridge, and Schaffelberg just were not touching the ball. We couldn't get it to them for whatever reason. So hopefully Dax comes in. And
Atlanta has such a bad defense too.
Yeah, that was the thing. Is like we had space, we had opportunities, we just couldn't seem to find, that pass that moves the ball from midfield into the attacking third for whatever reason. If it was Dax being out, if it was just like tired legs, fatigue, hangover from a cup final you just lost, I don't know what it was, but it was like the worst match in franchise history. We've like never lost. We've only lost 1 game by 3 goals. It's the first time we've ever lost a game by 4 goals. I think like the majority of our losses have been by only 1 goal. So I mean, it was as bad of a game as we've literally played in our history. So hopefully get it out of your system, come back with like a little bit of better performance. But certainly concerning that y'all essentially rested like half your team midweek and still won. So it's like, or at the weekend and still won. So it's like, God, the rest of everybody still won, and we played it like all but like Walker and Dax and got thrashed. It's like, I don't know. It's weird how we were so good in Leagues Cup, and then like we've kind of gone back to our regular season form now. So I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith in us doing a good job in this game, other than the fact that Gary typically, when he knows he has to play defense, can set things up pretty well. So if we can grind it out, keep it low scoring, we might have a chance. But I mean, Messi's going to do something insane at some point in time in the game. So you just got to hope we do enough on our end to like equal that.
Two last questions before we let you go. Oh, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, well, I was gonna get to we'll get to the you want to get to Hazel's first or the other question with Athar?
Oh, I'll get to Hazel's a second. Do you think there's gonna be a lot of people traveling down? It's a Wednesday. You guys just played us. I would just assume not, but have you heard that there's gonna be a lot of people traveling down to the game?
I would expect no. We had a ton of people that just went to Atlanta this last weekend because that's an easy trip for most people. So
and it's a
I think
weekday.
that probably, and a weekend game versus a midweek game. I think that probably took most of the budget. We do have certain fans that travel every away game. Like there's this one guy, Clay Tranium. He's like famous. He was like in the paper before we even got to MLS of like he had logged like just a crazy amount of miles following us when we were in like USL and NPSL and like the lower division league. So him and some other people I'm sure will make the trip down. But it was like I had some people that were asking me like, are you going to go down for the Miami game on Wednesday? I was like, I have a job. I can't just as much as I would love to as much as I would love to shoot down to Miami on a Wednesday, it's not really feasible for me on this one.
And I mean, for Nashville fans, how much would it suck to like have to watch the trophy presentation twice?
Yeah. No. I mean, that was
like that. What a coincidence! Like we win it, and then we get it presented like the celebration for the home. For us here, the fans at home against Nashville also. I was like, geez, wow, that's a kick in the gut. But I feel like that's going to amp you guys up just a little more. Yeah,
that'll certainly be something. I'm sure Gary will be talking to the players about that. Like, they're going to try to lift the trophy again in this game. So, let's they spoiled it for us at our place. Let's try to spoil it for us in their place. So, might be a little extra motivation for the players. And I also would think like a lot of our fan base has tapped out their budget on the Atlanta game and also going to the Leagues Cup final game. So I don't know if the prices have come down at all on like the home games for Messi, but I certainly do not think I have the budget to be able to like fly down to Miami and also buy a ticket on top of that. So
on the weekdays, they're a little cheaper.
But that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
Now, Athar was asking, and I think you answered the question. I think you answered the question already, but he was asking how different will Nashville play when they come here? and well, how will we play differently? I guess we'll leave the us to answer it later. But how do you see Nashville playing any differently? I mean, you went a little bit over it, but
Yeah, I think the setup will basically be the same. I mean, like I mentioned, Dax talked about it a lot in his podcast that it wasn't about like man marking Messi or trying to like keep on him. It was more about like making sure the passing lanes were cut off. Like that was his kind of main focus in the match for him was, know where Messi was, know to keep those, channels cut off a little bit. If anything, I don't know if we would go to like our back five. Gary's done that on the road sometimes when he's wanted to play more defensively, going to a back five, especially if he's feeling like Zimmerman is not 100% and wants to give him a little extra protection. Maybe that could happen. But I wouldn't expect to see much change from what we tried in the League's Cup because, I mean, I think it was pretty effective, as effective as
I think it was outside of
up to this
a little
point.
bit of outside of the brilliance of Messi for that one. I think we had a solid 15, 20 minutes in that game where we looked dangerous, but I felt like you guys were the better side
overall we're in control.
A large portion of that game, yeah.
Yeah, and I think some of that was you could start to see like that, Messi, Busquets, not having a preseason, kind of coming in and just hitting the ground running. You could kind of see the fatigue a little bit on their legs a little bit, which, I mean, Messi, he could just, like I said in that one video, he can just stand there and do nothing for 5 minutes and then score one of the best goals you've ever seen in your life. And Busquets, his passing range, he could stand on the same spot in the field, for the whole match and probably have 3 assists if things broke right. But yeah, it was definitely things went well. Like I said, I think the concern for me on our end would be, Tata's obviously a very good coach, especially, he's had tons of success in MLS. I don't think he's going to necessarily come out and run things the same way he did in that match, knowing that things went, okay for us. He'll probably have some new ideas, some new things he wants to try. So, does Gary have a new trick up his sleeve or is he going to try the same thing? I think it'll be a similar setup, but, I think both coaches will probably try something a little different. Somebody else, because, it was such a stalemate. I could see both coaches thinking, I got to do something a little different. I got to throw one extra wrinkle in there to try to unlock it.
So finally, we're gonna leave off with the prediction. What are we predicting here for Wednesday?
It's hard to say because a lot of times I would predict our defense to be solid. Coming off that Atlanta game, it's hard to say that though. I think if Zimmerman plays, I'm thinking 2-1 Miami. If Zimmerman doesn't play, if Zimmerman plays, I think 2-1 Miami because I just feel like we're still kind of putting our attack together. We're still trying to like get that chemistry down with our new striker, Sam Surridge, that we brought over in the transfer window, and Hani and that whole group coming together. Zimmerman gives us like the presence to where we can hold on to the game, but it just like it's one of the things I can't pick against Miami until somebody actually beats Miami. Like it's like you're down 2-0 Cincinnati. You rotate the whole squad. You just keep winning games. Like it's like it'd be stupid to pick against Miami at this point in time until somebody actually proves they can do it. But
yes,
I think our attack will be a little bit more competent than it was against Atlanta. So I think we'll find a way to get a goal, but limiting you guys seems a little bit more of a challenge. And, I mean, if we give 4 goals to Atlanta, I mean, Thiago Almada is like Messi Jr. and we gave him like, run of the field. So it's like, it feels like we will be a little bit more ready for this game than we're for Atlanta, but still I would think it's going to be a tough game for us. I'd say 2-1.
One last thing. You said if Zimmerman plays, I wasn't aware that he might not play. Is there a reason why he might not play?
So he popped up on the injury report Friday with a lower body injury. Didn't play for us against Atlanta at the weekend. Gary said if it wasn't a 2-match week, he probably would have played Zimmerman on Saturday. But given Miami, and that was probably going to be the tougher opponent of the two, which once again we lost 4-0. So I mean, yeah. So it's like he felt it was better to hold Zimmerman out for a game, get him more fit, more ready for the Miami game. But Gary's not always the most honest with injury stuff. Like earlier this season, Randall Leal was out and he spent like a month and a half saying like, oh, he's about a week away. He's about a week away. And then it was like 3 months before he came back. So he's almost like the way Bill Belichick is in like the NFL where like this could be 2 days, 3 days, and then you don't see that guy for like a month, or he shows up and plays. He shows up and plays out of nowhere, and you're like, oh, I thought this guy was out for 3 months, but now he's in the starting lineup again. So it's like it's one of those things where like Gary's a little cagey about injuries and stuff like that. Sometimes Leo came back a lot faster than I thought he would this time. So I think Zimmerman probably will play because like the way Gary phrased it made it sound like he's planning on playing him, but
I would assume that he's going to play. And just in case you
Game-time
decide to make a
decision.
random trip, cheapest ticket to get in the house is 163, followed by 165, 166, so somewhere in the 160s, 170s if you decide to make the trip. Section 110, row 17, not horrible seats, not decent.
That's not bad.
It's not
No.
terrible.
All right.
Terrible
Well,
at all.
Uncle Mad, as always, we appreciate you taking the time to join us. If you haven't already, please go ahead and follow Uncle Mad on Twitter. You can go ahead and give off your socials and YouTube and all that other stuff before we get off. See if you get some more of that Messi effect.
It's Uncle Mad on everything. Sometimes there's an underscore, sometimes there's not. It's 2 D's in Mad because I'm that angry about stuff that there's an extra D in Mad. So look for it there. I'm gonna hang around, and I'm excited to see Tim. I mean, you guys should ask Tim about small sample size. Ask him about small sample sizes. That'll be funny.
Well, I wanted to ask Tim about Leo missing is what I wanted to ask him about, but
he'll love that. Him and his co-host, they love their puns when they're on their podcast.
Yeah.
They are. Honestly, he's a great guest for you guys to get. If I ever say anything smart about Nashville SC, there's a good chance that I heard it from Tim or his co-host first and just repeat it on my show. So like he's a good get to get. I'm excited to hear what he has to say.
Yeah. All right. And one last thing, somebody complimented your shirt. Cool T-shirt, Uncle Mad. So again,
this is the Juneteenth jersey from last year. So I think every club had this last year. And
everybody. A lot of people are new to MLS, but those are like league wide when we have those celebrations, 4th of July, Juneteenth, all that other good stuff. So again, thank you for joining us, and we'll catch up with you next time.
Yep. See you guys.
All right. Have a good one. All right, and then with that great introduction from Uncle Matt, I don't even know if I have to say much else. Welcome, Tim. How are you doing, sir? Tim Sullivan.
Not too bad. How you guys doing?
Good,
Living the dream.
man. Thank you for coming on.
Shout out to Uncle Mad for all the late shout outs he tossed me there at the very end. He should not have given any to Wes, but he did give me a few. So
rolled the red carpet out there.
So we were contemplating on whether we should have just Uncle Matt on or we want to get somebody else's take. And because we try to, get different takes when we have opposing teams on. So we figured, well, everybody loves Uncle Matt. So we brought him on for the first half, but we did want to get some new takes from who else but Tim Sullivan from the Club and Country website, podcast. You guys got a bunch of stuff. If you want, just throw it all out there now, so everybody has.
Yeah. I mean, the easiest thing to do is if you have a platform that you're looking for content on, search for Club and Country. Club Country USA is a good way to find it too. So, yep, whatever it is, podcast and website are the two main ones, though.
All right. So,
well, and Danny, we got to double up since we played Nashville recently, and now we're playing them again. So we had to double up for this episode, Danny.
I think that was the thing. We felt like, what are we going to ask Uncle Matt? They didn't tell us 2 weeks ago or a week ago. So, but now that we have you on here, fresh takes, we wanted to see more or less what are you 6 out of 7 losses in the regular season, but you look pretty, I don't want to say great in the Leagues Cup, right? You could have lost to America in penalties. You had a couple of penalty shootouts. How are you feeling about Nashville going into this game overall?
Yeah, I think the fairest thing to say is that they were better than they looked in the final few regular season games before the Leagues Cup, and probably not quite as good as they looked during Leagues Cup. And then it kind of all came crashing down against Atlanta, and that's it's just one of those games where you put so much into the Miami final, and then that you have Miami coming up in just a couple days as well. Atlanta's also a rivalry. It's all I mean, it's weird because Atlanta is a rivalry, but like when you look at kind of the sequence of games where these games against not just Miami, which is a team that Nashville has had the number of for the most part, but this is not the same Miami that they saw every time before, a week and a half ago. So it's kind of a different story when you look at what this challenge against Miami presents, but also what the opportunity is I think when anybody logs into MLS League Pass presented by Apple, there's a very different viewership number when Messi's playing versus when he's not, and I think Nashville kind of knew that and is kind of planning accordingly to try and put their best foot forward in this one at the expense of a rivalry game, yes, but because they know how important this is in terms of global eyeballs, not just kind of what it means in the MLS season.
What did you think that they did best during that Leagues Cup game? Because I felt they didn't necessarily put the clamps on Messi, but they kept Messi away from the ball, right? They cut off the passing lanes, didn't allow him to get the ball. What, in your opinion, was what Matt? Because I thought Nashville did a great job against Inter Miami. I thought they were the better side for a lot of that game.
Yeah, I think you have it just right. Like, you're playing against the best player who has ever walked this planet. He's going to have kind of an incredible goal against you. Your objective is to make sure he only has one incredible goal against you, which is absolutely ridiculous to say. I don't think like Real Madrid had been thinking that, over the past 15 years or whatever. But when you're in Major League Soccer, you kind of say, we know Messi is going to get his. We need to make sure it only happens one time. And Nashville went out and executed a game plan that was exactly that. It was, if he gets on the ball, he's going to do what he does. We need to get him on the ball as infrequently as possible. We need to make sure that the opportunities that he has are farther away from goal, which were for the most part what they were. There were a few set piece opportunities in addition to the one that he did score. There were the set piece opportunities that I think Nashville fans were pretty scared of. Unfortunately for them, it didn't turn into anything. But the goal was, don't let the best player who's ever played beat you. Maybe let him draw you, I guess, which is what happened. But don't let him go out and dominate the game. I think you look at like what Orlando did in the Leagues Cup match and what some of these other teams did. Even Dallas, which earned the draw, but obviously didn't advance on penalties. They almost got complacent and said, "Yeah, we took care of Messi for 30 minutes. Definitely, that's enough." That's how long a soccer game is, right? It's 30 minutes. Good. Okay, we're done. And Nashville didn't want to let that happen. And I think that was kind of to their credit. They did a very good job of that. And, that's the most you can ask in that circumstance.
Well, and I thought that you guys, for the most part, probably game plan the best against us throughout all of the teams that we played. I mean, maybe, I don't know if I'm wrong here, Danny, or if you disagree, but I think your team was probably the best that game planned against us throughout the Leagues Cup, because I was looking at the team, before that when we played Philly, and I thought that they were going to be the best representatives out to play us, and they kind of fumbled the ball, having somebody just hover over Sergio Busquets the whole time. So considering that you guys kept us only under a goal.
Do you think that Nashville kind of they lucked? I don't want to say lucked out, but they took advantage of the fact that they were able to watch Philly get cute, and they decided, let's not get cute. Let's just play our game. Because I feel like that was an advantage to Nashville, because I think people going into play against Messi, it's like they might overthink things. Let's figure out how we can take Messi and Busquets out of the game. And to an extent, they end up overthinking themselves out of the game.
Yeah, I think what Chris just said is a big deal, is that they saw Philly do it. And Danny, what you said too is they were like, hey, we're just going to do what we do, and we're going to try to do a really good job of it. What Philly did was obviously, in hindsight, but just so stupid, was let's do something completely different from what we usually do. They will never expect it, and we are just going to catch them by surprise. But who also doesn't expect it is the guys who train for 51 weeks a year, and then suddenly the 52nd week, like, oh, now we have to do something completely different. And again, we're playing against Messi. I think he's seen a lot of different things. He can probably figure it out.
He plays pretty good football.
Yeah, right. Like I don't think there's going to be something that's like schematically going to be like, oh, wow, I've never seen this before. So I think Nashville was probably going to do a version of what they always do. They're pretty, I don't want to say dogmatic in what they do, but they aren't going to overthink things as much as some other teams might do. But I think seeing what Philly did, they were like, okay, what we really need to do is absolutely buckle down on what we know we are the absolute best in. They had messed around with a diamond formation a little bit, which is, I believe, part of what Philly had been doing before they switched to that back three to mess around with Messi to their own detriment, I guess. But Nashville said, we're best in a two holding midfielders. We're just going to have those guys sit back and, Dax McCarty, I think, was a little bit more tasked with kind of following Messi around, but we're going to have those guys sit deep and make sure that we aren't, destroyed by giving a lot of space. And that's what they have done. That's what they did, in, from 2020 until 2021. That's, the primary thing that they've done. They've messed around with some different stuff over the last couple of years because they've added more talent, but it was really, let's get back to basics. What we know we have drilled really well, what we know we can do really well. And if we get beat by Messi, we get beat by Messi, but we're not going to do it because we tried to outsmart him, because I don't think anybody who's actually going to win a game is going to outsmart Messi in order to beat him.
Well, and in the last time that you guys played us, you guys, now that we're talking a little bit about tactics and formation, you guys ran what looks like to be a 4-4-2 against us, and then in the last game against Atlanta, you guys ran a 4-4-2 as well. Is that something that you're sort of foreseeing is the possibility that's going to be approached on Wednesday?
It'll be interesting to see, because some of that comes down to who's healthy. I think Dax McCarty is actually a much more important piece of making some of the preferred tactics work. And if he's not available, then it changes everything. But Nashville is they'll go with a 4-4-2, but really it's a defensive 4-4-2 formation. And in attack, it's a little bit more of two true wingers. So it's like a 4-2-3-1, two true wingers, and Hani Mukhtar playing well behind a true striker. And you have Sam Surridge, who has not been quite as good in the last couple of games, to be quite honest. He wasn't as good as he had been for much of his Leagues Cup performance in the final against Miami. And then he wasn't good at all against Atlanta over the weekend. Yeah. So if he's sharp, I think they'll be very happy to play with one up top and kind of drop Hani back a little bit and a little bit more of that kind of, it's basically a modern take on a 4-4-2, where just one of the strikers is kind of that playmaking number 10. But I think that they'll be very happy to do that with a full strength lineup.
Chris, real quick, I had a question for you. Do you think that we're going to see a regular starting lineup of just Messi, Busquets, and everybody 490? Or do you think that we're going to kind of rest our guys a little more so we can be fresh going into LA? Because I feel like the LAFC, for me personally, I think that's the bigger game than the Nashville game. I would put more stock in the LAFC game simply because we've beaten Nashville in Nashville. We've beaten Philly in Philly. We've beaten Cincinnati in Cincinnati. I feel like that other big name, big team that you want to be in their house would be LAFC. Me personally, I want to be LAFC in LA. Do you think we get rotation in this game, or is it just 490 Messi?
No, I think we're going to see some rotation this game. And I think if there's any game that I think we can, I guess, I don't want to say sacrifice, but any game that we want to take a chance on, I guess, would be this Wednesday game, especially with the opponents that we have after the fact. I mean, we have LAFC, and we have Sporting KC, we got Atlanta right after. So I think that we can afford, starting them, starting other players or playing other players later.
I mean, I think if we rotate players, there's a good chance we lose this game, honestly. I feel like we need Messi out there. We could kiss some sisters, I guess, but
I
don't know. I expect them to play the 490. I was just curious what you thought. I expect them to play the 490 and also play the 490 against LAFC. That's what I expect, but I was kind of curious.
That would be fantastic. But I would think, well, you know what makes a difference though, Danny, is they're going to be presenting the Leagues Cup trophy. Right. So would you want to not start Messi on the day that you're presenting the same trophy that Messi helped win?
I really don't think the team cares that much.
No.
Like, do you really think that just because they're presenting the trophy, they feel like they need to play 90 minutes?
Well, then I guess Nashville doesn't have to play a 1-1-8 or an 8-1-1. Then I guess
nobody's playing that. All right.
Let me give an outsider's perspective on rotation.
I would love that.
Uncle Mad was just talking about it. Messi doesn't expend a ton of energy when he plays, and that's not a criticism on him at all. That is absolutely the smart way to play the game. And then you've got Nashville, you've got LAFC, and then a Sporting KC who sucks. I think if he can get through 90 minutes of 2 games, and then you can make the decision for SKC. The issue with where Miami stands right now in the Eastern Conference is there is no point that is not valuable, and until there becomes a moment in time where you can say, oh yeah, we don't care about 2 points or 3 points, then you can start resting those guys. And I think at this stage, honestly, it doesn't make any sense to go with anything less than a full lineup against Nashville. If you get everything you need against Nashville, it doesn't make sense to go with anything less than a full lineup against LAFC. Against SKC, you can get a result without a full strength lineup. This is a really bad team. So I think that's how I would look at it from an outsider's perspective, and just knowing what the table looks like, knowing what the Eastern Conference plays like, and then obviously seeing that they are 2 Western Conference teams coming up. So that's kind of how I would look at that one.
Yeah, and don't let Convincio hear you. He was offended that I said that Inter Miami is going to beat KC.
Shouts to Convincio, but his team sucks.
Yeah,
that's why he's coming to see Miami.
Now, on Twitter, I said that's going to be the best game we win because we're going to be playing with our MLS2 team. That's going to be the team that runs out there, and they're going to beat KC, and we're going to celebrate it as the best victory.
The return
of
of Harvey Neville.
No, we loaned him out. He's not.
No, he's already
anymore.
loaned out to Lourdes United.
But whoever it is, we'll figure out a way to win that game. I have no doubt. I lost my train of thought when I brought up Kevincho. So we haven't had you on. So I kind of want. Obviously, we have a lot of new viewership, right? We have people from all over the place watching the show and MLS now. So we kind of, when we have an opposing team's podcaster on or report or whatever it may be, we like to kind of give us, not just us Inter Miami fans, but just everybody that's new to this, some information on maybe people that we could be looking out for, like players to look out for when we watch the game on Wednesday that maybe aren't household names, right? Everybody knows Mukhtar, but like give us some names of people that maybe want to look out for that might stand out to us or we want to just pay a little closer attention to.
Yeah, I think I think Uncle Mad mentioned him too, but he's not somebody that Nashville fans will be surprised about. But Jacob Schaffelberg has been such a revelation since he joined from Toronto FC. Another person that everybody's heard of, but probably don't think he's a game changer in the league anymore is Dax McCarty. He is such an important piece of what this team does. He had kind of a down year and a half, but that's exactly what a Nashville fan would want to hear. Probably though,
I hate him.
It's never necessarily going to look pretty, but what he does is so important defensively. And then he's probably the one guy they brought in his former backup at New York Red Bulls, Sean Davis, the previous offseason to kind of say, you're going to be the future Dax because Dax is just 36 years old. He's not going to be long for this league. And then when you see those guys play, I love Sean Davis, and our podcast was talking constantly about how Sean Davis needed to be the guy that they brought in. We will always crow about how they eventually did it, and it was exactly what they did, and they saw the same thing that we did. But you also saw that he's just not Dax McCarty. Just the different intangible stuff and plus the tangible stuff. He's the one he's such true defensive midfielder that this team has that can also translate it to offense a little bit. Anibal Godoy is a little bit more of an attacking version, but he's just a destroyer defensively. You don't get the full package unless you have Dax McCarty on the pitch, and that's something that this Nashville team is honestly struggled with when he hasn't played. I know Mad mentioned that the fact that he didn't play against Atlanta was a big part of why this team came out really flat. So he's one. I'm not giving a revelation about some player that nobody's ever heard of, but
birthing players.
Yeah. And then I think a guy that sometimes is a little bit unheralded, but Nashville fans, I think, appreciate in ways that only fans of a team the style of Nashville could appreciate. And I think Uncle Mad mentioned him too, is Lucas McNaughton. He came over from Toronto FC over the course of this season, and he's been the most Ken from Barbie looking defender on this team for sure, but also he's been much more solid than anybody expected. He's stepped in for an injured Walker Zimmerman at times. He stepped in for an injured Jack Mayer at times. And he's not going to be a star. He's not going to be the best player on anybody's defense in any reasonable universe that we live in, but he's going to come in and be a really solid player. And I think that's certainly, I know it's better than Toronto FC fans were expecting when they got rid of him. So that's something that I think has gone really appreciated by Nashville fans for sure.
Hazel with the real questions. We need to know what the FIFA ratings are. Sorry, it's
Yes.
on this show. That's how we
Hazel.
judge our players. That's how we judge our players on this show.
I am on it, my friend.
All right. So obviously we all said, right, and it's a lot easier to say since we won. So it's a lot easier to be like, yeah, you guys outplayed us, So, but we felt like you guys obviously played us. Everybody says Dallas. I felt like Nashville played a better game than Dallas, honestly. I just that we got down. We had our own goals. It was a weird game. And not that Dallas didn't play a good game against us, but I thought Nashville played a better game against us. But what would you say is the Nashville strength that you guys are going to try to exploit on Wednesday night?
Yeah, I think there are a couple. The first one is set pieces. This is a Nashville team that has focused on that since, the first, match that they played in Major League Soccer. The first goal that they scored, the only goal that they had scored for like the first 6 months of the franchise, since there was something of a little break there right after it started. But set pieces are so important to this team. Walker Zimmerman is a major threat on set pieces. There are a few other guys who can get on the end of set pieces. Anibal Godoy, who I already mentioned. Hani Mukhtar is a surprising participant in that sometimes. McNaughton has been a guy who's been able to do it. And they've gotten really good service from Mukhtar on corners, especially and set pieces where he's just taking a shot from the free kick. And Daniel Lovitz has been really good on service as well. The other one would be absorbing a little bit of pressure, drawing numbers forward, and then countering. The counterattack has been so important to this Nashville team. I think against a team that has Lionel Messi, which doesn't need to push numbers forward to create chances because, again, you have the best string puller that's ever played the game, distributing. Right. I think his assist the other night is the perfect example of you don't need a great look. You don't need a ton of numbers to have all of a sudden a really good look. He's going to, see the pass that nobody else sees and then be there to dunk it home on the doorstep too. So I don't know that one's such an advantage against Nashville. The set pieces are going to be big. The defensive solidity it's really boring, frankly. If you're looking for how
it almost looks like you're parking the bus. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. There's definitely an element of that, but I think opposing fans get mad because the parking the bus seems to always end up with a 1-0. It's never a 0-0 sort of deal. So, it kind of has this reputation as being they're not going to score or they're not going to let you score because they are also not trying to score, but they also seem to find the winner more often than not when they go with that sort of philosophy. Right. So it can be something that is an acquired taste, I guess, but it is definitely something that they're going to focus on defensive solidity and trying to turn that into transition. And if it doesn't work, yes, it can end up looking really boring, but that's what really the bread and butter of this team is.
If you're winning, it doesn't really matter. I mean,
exactly. And that's the thing is it can turn into 0-0s, definitely. But somehow this Nashville team, which doesn't have as much attacking talent as a lot of teams around the league, it's got what is now the second best number 10 in the league, but you need more than one guy a lot of the time, and Nashville's been able to do it with basically one guy in Hani Mukhtar and focusing on being really defensively sound. They've added speed this offseason with Jacob Schaffelberg, who I mentioned, with Fafa Picault, but really it is the Hani Mukhtar and defend show a lot of the time, and it still manages to be pretty high scoring too, but the priority is definitely don't let the other guys score first.
I will tell you something that you were saying just a couple minutes ago that probably got all the Inter Miami fans in the chest was when you said that your strength is set pieces because we've given up the most set pieces in the league this year. I feel like, you know what? Honestly, in open play, I don't really worry about people getting scoring on us all that often. When it's a set piece, I feel like it's halfway goal. Like it's going to go in at some point. So that is frightening to hear, honestly.
Yeah, I think from that perspective, this Miami defense was terrible, and probably the back, six is still not that good. I guess you could consider Busquets part of that, but other than that, it's still not very good. The upside right now is that you have a bunch of guys who can possess the ball, and there are fewer of those moments where you have to rely on the center backs, where you have to rely on the right back or whatever it is. And that's enough when you have a guy like Messi.
Well, and
Well,
just so you know, we picked up a new center back. Just he started for us for the first time against Cincinnati, so we got that going for us, I guess. Okay, Chris.
Yeah, he's young and he's playing. He's starting to gel well with the team. But other than that, like he had mentioned, the center backs at this point are probably where our weaknesses are, and that's considering that just maybe 10 games ago, before Messi came in, a lot of the fan base actually liked how our center backs were playing. As far as Miller and Kristoff, they were playing pretty solid and distributing the ball, right, Danny?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it felt like it was
definitely
all coming off a set
definitely
pieces.
an upgrade. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kristoff
Well,
has his moments. I'll withhold
does.
comment on Muller.
Well, let's get back to the real news of the show, because someone asked about this. What's the FIFA ranking? And here we go. McNaughton is ranked 63. It's a bronze. He's not even is that a rare card or is that a common card?
Wow, I don't know, but I like Ryan Gosling. He does look like a
He
Ken.
does look like, yeah. Just and
He's Ken enough.
somebody, yeah, and somebody mentioned that he gets the Ryan Gosling award. Let's not forget that in the movie Remember the Titans, he was a complete liability. Let's not forget about that on defense. Okay.
Jesus. All right. I think we're ready for the predictions, no, Chris?
Yes, we are.
All right.
And
so
it's going to be big. I mean, so we had a prediction with Uncle Matt. He said what? 2-1 if
Walker plays.
if Walker plays. And if he doesn't play, then geez, I can't even imagine what the score would have been predicted for him.
You guys let him off easy. I don't think he even said anything.
No, he didn't mention anything. But we'll start off with you, Tim. So big game coming up on Wednesday, right? It's a rematch. We get to present some silverware the same day. And I guess it's actually better for Nashville because then they could take a second stab at it. What do you see the game resulting in? What is your prediction?
I think Nashville's really going to rely on the same philosophy that they relied upon in the League's Cup final, which is, Leo Messi is going to get one goal or one opportunity that he creates that nobody else on the planet could create. If he scores it, you lose. If he doesn't score it, or if you can come back, you have a really good chance. I think they're going to play for like that 1-1 or maybe a 1-0, 0-1, something pretty low scoring, which may not be that fun for a trophy presentation game. It's a matter of Nashville having kind of saved a lot of their best players for this. Dax McCarty, Walker Zimmerman. Walker Zimmerman didn't even play against Atlanta. This is a situation where if it was a game that they were trying to win, he's playing in that game. They're saving him for the Miami game, and I think some of that is like a little bit of a revenge. I think because they're playing for a low scoring match, and I don't think you can stop Messi. I think a similar, full time result of 1-1 is probably what I would guess. I wouldn't put it past Messi to make it 4-1 or whatever, but I also wouldn't put it past Nashville to say, hey, this fucking guy's not going to beat us. We are going to grind out a 0-0 or hope to steal a winner and make it a 1-0 win.
Well, that's not bad. That's not bad. I can see that. I can see that. Danny, what do you think? What do you see the prediction being? Or do you want me to go first so I can exaggerate?
Go ahead, you exaggerate. You do your thing.
So I don't think I'm gonna exaggerate this time, Danny. I think I'm gonna be humble for this game. I think that it's gonna be 3-1. Inter Miami takes it.
That's humble.
I think that's pretty humble.
Against the best defense in the league. Okay.
I mean, look, I'll tell you, the New England Revolution in their email that they sent were right about one thing. You can guarantee a goal per game if you look at statistics at this point. So a goal per game out of Messi with a random goal from some randos coming in as well. I think it could be 3-1. I could definitely see that happening, especially for a trophy presentation game.
I wore the Kissing Sisters shirt just because I wanted to predict the draw. Because I kind of felt like Nashville's going to come in and they're going to play that low block. They're going to say, you're not going to beat us. We might get a goal with Mukhtar, but you're not beating us. And that's kind of how I figured that they're going to come and approach this game. But the more I thought about it, Inter Miami, every game that Messi has started at home, have scored at least 3 goals. They scored 3, 4, 4, and then they gone on the road to some of the best teams in the league defensively, and they've put up multiple goals. If Messi starts, I wanted to say a draw, but I don't know. I think that we might win. like Uncle Matt said, until somebody beats us, and again, I know a draw isn't a loss, but at home, they just played so well at home so far. I'm gonna say 2-1. Kind of like Uncle Matt. I'm gonna say 2-1. I can't imagine us keeping a clean sheet, especially since they're so good. They scored on us in the League Cup final, although it was technically an own goal. It was off a set piece. Like we give up goals on set pieces. That's just what we do. So giving up a set piece goal and then us scoring 2, which are going to be a hard fought 2, I promise you, because Nashville is going to be all about not letting us score. Like it's not going to be an open game. So I think 2-1. I'm going to say, and I'll put the kissing sister shirt away for another day.
And I'll tell you, I think that the fan base, if there's any game that we can lose that's somewhat acceptable, I think it would be this one, especially since we're facing against Nashville, who, I mean, held us to a pretty tough game the last time we played them. So if we lose to Nashville, I don't think it's going to be that surprising to the fan base. It's not like if we would have lost to, Cincinnati or the Red Bulls, I guess.
Yeah, but with the playoffs, I don't want to say that they're on the line already, but we don't have a very much margin for error. So
they kind of are.
Yeah, but I think in the last 11 now, we could drop 2 games. Yeah. 2 out of 11 you can drop and still possibly make the playoffs. But you don't want to drop one of the very first games out of those 11 because all of a sudden you feel like you're backed up into a corner. If it happens like 4 or 5 games down the road from now, maybe. I think this is a really big game. I think they need to get this game because LAFC in LA is going to be really tough. And I always told you that I thought it was going to be really hard to win against the Red Bulls, Nashville, and LAFC. I really have a really hard time believing that we could win all 3 of those. So I think the Red Bulls was a must win, and I think Nashville is a must win. And then LAFC, hopefully we can at least get a point out of that one.
And before you move on, Danny, I want to just mention this comment because I think this is an important comment. RM305 chimes in, says, so are Inter Miami fans that are started watching because of Messi considered bandwagon fans asking for a friend? As long as you like Inter Miami, guy, it's okay, RM. Just like Inter Miami a little bit, okay? And while you're at it, get the thumb, guys, and put it to work. Like and subscribe, all that good stuff.
I don't know. That bandwagon stuff is like it brought them over. We're all rooting for the same team to win, so I'm okay with it. I don't care. That bandwagon stuff is over.
I'll give a comparison here. So I went to the University of Michigan, and Michigan State fans love to just rag on Michigan people for being bandwagon fans because the team was always way better and remains way better. But it doesn't matter. If you're a fan of the team, you're a fan of the team. Nobody cares why. It all counts, right? So that's my very concise version of that thought.
Yeah, I agree. Nice. Now the only thing is that a lot of Inter Miami fans are like, "Oh yeah, but they're gonna leave once Messi leaves." A lot of them might, but I think
they probably will, but some will stick around.
Some will stick around.
Some will definitely.
Well, let's welcome everybody with open arms and just hope that the ones that stick around enjoy the ride from here on out, and then decide to stick around. I think they have fun with us on Mondays and Wednesdays on the chat. So we'll see.
And look at this. And you mentioned it, Danny. We've had people jump into this community of ours that came in as Messi fans, and now they appreciate the team. They're interested in the team. They ask questions about the team. And it's just like how RM305 is commenting now. Yeah, I really only watched soccer during World Cup. Didn't follow it that much, but I'm all in. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about, guys.
All right. So one last thing, because I know, Chris, you're going to get to the question. So before we get to the question, I did want to bring up one quick thing. This is the first home game in like a month. We haven't had a whole game in a while. Maybe not a month, but like 3 weeks. And the last time we came on here, and actually, Tim, how do you feel about the wave at soccer games?
Kind of the same way that I feel about bandwagon fans. It's like if it's not for me, it's not for me. But if that's how people are going to enjoy their time at a sporting event, whatever. As long as they're enjoying themselves and spending their money in the stadium, I don't care.
I agree because Miami fans have this. Miami fans have a reputation of leaving the games early, right? That's the reputation that this city has built. And in the 80th minute of the last game, where we were beating up on Charlotte 4-0, they started doing the wave in the 80th minute. And I thought to myself, I'd rather them do the wave in the 80th minute and start walking out in the 80th minute.
If
I was
they're
okay
there
with
and
it.
having fun, who cares?
Exactly. But a lot of people were like, we'd rather them start chanting and stuff. But a lot of people don't know the chants. So what I wanted to do, for those of you watching that will be at the game, Vice City on their YouTube channel have all their chants, lyrics up on there as you can hear the song. You can listen to them and learn them, because I honestly believe, and I want to figure out a way to kind of get it around in the stadium, because if you listen, when they do the Ole, when they do the Messi chants, everybody joins in. Everybody has fun chanting and singing along when they know what the chant is. If it's easy,
Yes.
they'll go with it. So I want to figure out a way to get the whole stadium into it and to get that out. Now, I don't know if anybody has any ideas on how to do that. I was talking to Caesar from Vice City the other day. He told me that at some point they were giving out flyers with the QR codes so that you could pull them up on your phone. I think that's a great idea also. I think it would be really cool if there was a way to kind of get that all out, because I am 100% sure. And I know that they couldn't put it up on the big screen, right? Because they're showing the game on the big screen. But if you could figure out how to get it for everybody to see, everybody would sing along. Everybody enjoys this. So that's just what I wanted to say, because I would love for the whole stadium to be chanting and singing instead of just the North Stand. All right, Chris, go ahead.
Most definitely. All right. So, Tim, for every person that we have on, every guest that we've had on, we've had a question, which it's really a picture. And kudos to Callie, who's a part of the Battered family as well. He's the one that sort of originated with this picture. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this picture on this screen, and you got some tough decisions to make, my friend. So you got to pick one of the 5 pieces of steak and one of the 6 pieces of toast. And everyone in the chat will judge you according to what you're going to pick. So pick wisely.
Oh man, so I'm kind of a halfway guy. I'm somewhere between 1 and 2. I'll go 2 just to be on err on the side of caution here. And then toast. I guess I'm probably a 3 sort of guy. I'm not a burnt guy, but I'm definitely not a raw guy either for that.
You don't microwave your bread.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
That was good choices.
Yeah. Well, I can't do the 1. I got to do the 3 on the meat. That 1 is a little too.
No,
you can't do it.
If it was still mooing at me, I'd like it still, I think.
You're a different breed. They don't make them like you. Steve Munoz, go ahead. Oh, good answer.
You were saying about Steve Munoz. Go ahead.
Yeah, he said our New Yorkers considered bandwagoners because half the stadium was pink. Just so you know, Steve, that game was played in New Jersey. All right. In Ecuador, Mike V, they literally hand out a little piece of paper with just one song, and they did that for a month straight, then a new song the next month. That's not a bad option. Look, I think that there has to be something, and I think that the team, right? Because the supporter section already does what they do, right? Vice City, Southern Legion, the Siege, Nación Rosa y Negro, all of them, right? If I'm forgetting any, my fault, but they all do a good job doing what they do. But I really do think that the team has to help out with that, because that really helps the atmosphere at the games.
Which, by the way, I want to mention something on. Go ahead with Uncle Matt's question. So Uncle Matt was Tim able to smell Beckham's musk from the press box?
Yeah, fortunately, we're given a buffer zone, so I was saved from that.
And I want to mention something on Steve Munoz's comment. By the way, Steve Munoz, I don't know if you saw the last. I think you did. You were on it. The last guy that we had on from the New York Red Bulls said that he had sold his seats and paid for his entire season package off of those seats. So, yeah, they're basically selling their seats to anybody wearing whatever color.
Liquid Amis said, in Argentina, we eat the meat as a number 1 and number 2, very bloody. I like it when it's still moving.
Man, there we go.
Why don't MLS play under the rain? They do play under the rain. It's just if there's lightning, they aren't allowed to play when it's, I think, within like 8 miles. Is it
6
something like
miles,
that? 6 miles. Okay. And the songs are on YouTube. Yes, on Vice City's website. In the description, I'm going to put a link to a page that they have where it's literally just the lyrics. And if you get on their YouTube page, you can actually listen to the songs and read the lyrics. All right. Anything else from the chat that you want to bring up, Chris? Or are we
I'm trying to look for something else. I mean, I see something basketball related that I want to click real bad, but I'm not because we're talking football. And oh yeah, Mr. Krabs is just mentioning I saw photos of Messi shirts in the Red Bulls team store, so that's awkward.
Well, I promise you that wasn't there in Nashville. And kudos to you guys, Tim, in Nashville. You guys showed up. I thought that might be 50-50. You guys, that was 70-75%. Nashville, that was an awesome environment. Man, I really, really enjoyed being out there. And I mean, I know that I was rooting for Inter Miami when I was there, but it was really cool to hear the Nashville fans boo Messi and get really into the game. I think that those are the best type of environments to be in.
Yeah, I will admit I'm a longtime Messi fan. You know, as I've said many times, he's the greatest player that's ever walked this earth. But you know, if you're an opposing fan, you can recognize greatness, but you don't. For 90 minutes, you can root against the guy, right? Like he's not any less great because he's beating the team that, or because he's not beating the team that you want to root for. I've thought some of the discourse around people saying, "Oh, you can't boo the GOAT." It's like, of course you can. It's not because a boo is not a claim that he's bad. It's a recognition that he's our team, for the other team. Yeah. That's all it is. Yeah.
Yes, they're gonna play through the hurricane because the hurricane's not coming to South Florida unless it moves. We are gonna get some outer bands. Expect the weather delay at some point because that's just how South Florida does it. But no, they'll play the game. That shouldn't be a problem. And to the Messi point, where people are saying that you're saying he's bad, I've misspoken on here the last month a few times. I've gotten canceled like 3 times by all Argentinians. They absolutely they hate when you say absolutely anything negative about Messi, and I don't. I just sometimes I misspeak. All right. Tim, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time for being a good guest and for giving us some insight. And once again, if you want to just say where it is that they can find you before we head out.
Yeah, on Twitter or whatever it's going to be called within the next week. Who knows? At Club Country USA. Same on YouTube. The website is clubcountryusa.com. Search Club and Country on your podcast service of choice, and you'll be able to find us there.
Oh, I had a quick question. You guys love Johnny Cash. Johnny Cash is everywhere in Nashville.
Yeah, it's a
I guess it wasn't so much a question.
Yeah. That wasn't a question, but I will answer the implied question, which is kind of a thematic thing. I don't know.
Right.
The black jersey that they have this year is themed on him. He's obviously somebody who became famous in Nashville and I believe passed away when he lived in Nashville. So it's kind of a shout out to the city. I don't think necessarily the direct soccer connection is there, but hey, there it is. Look,
I love Johnny Cash, and I had no idea until I went to the Johnny Cash little museum that they have there.
Yeah, down on First Street, or Second.
Yeah, that the Hurt song was a cover for 9 Inch Nails.
Oh yeah.
I had
the
no
9
idea.
Inch Nails version is weird, but yeah.
Yeah, I listened to it afterwards. I was like, why did they even choose it? Like, how did they think that this was gonna work? But it worked. And
that's good. He had a good producer or something on that one.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, that was a little history lesson for you guys. The Hurt Johnny Cash song, originally a 9 Inch Nails song. All right, Chris, any final thoughts?
Listen, I can't wait till Wednesday to see some hardware being represented to the fan base here in Miami. I'm gonna be out there. You're gonna be out there, Danny?
I already have my copy of the statue.
Oh, nice! Look at that.
Yeah.
La cafetera.
Go ahead. Just go to Navarro. You can get yourself one for like $5.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. Look at this, and even Steve Munoz. Wow, Danny is cultured. Look at that. You're not getting any hate this episode, Danny. You're not getting canceled.
I'm pretty sure that was sarcastic, but okay.
It was a blast.
All right.
Thank you so much for coming on, Tim. Much appreciated, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Messi will be a little upset that's not a true mate cup, but I think he'll let you guys know.
Yeah. All right. So if you are listening on audio and you listen all the way to the end, thank you as always. Please like, subscribe, comment, review, all that other good stuff. And if you are listening on YouTube, thank you for watching all the way to the end. Also, like and subscribe. And if you are part of the chat or you were part of the chat today, as always, you guys are the best part of the show. We appreciate your input, always being, funny, and Steve always being an ass. And Chris, as always, I hate you. Tim, thank you for joining us. And until the next one, have a good one. Are we going to be back on Wednesday after the game?
I believe so. We'll see.
Okay.
Depends.
So we might catch you guys after the game on Wednesday. But until the next one, have a good one. Peace.